Awesome. Well, thank you again for sharing this time with us. Can you just tell us your name and what do you do?
Sure. My name is Dr. Devry Anderson, and I am currently the Chief Medical Officer for St. David's South Austin Medical Center. I'm also the DIO, or the Designated Institutional Official, for the St. David's Health GME, or General Medical Education training programs here for our residents.
Take your glasses off for a sec. Don't squint, but can you? Yeah.
I can see.
Okay. All right. I want you to do it again.
Okay.
So tell us your name and what do you do?
My name is Dr. Devry Anderson, and I am the Chief Medical Officer for the St. David's South Austin Medical Center hospital here in Austin. I'm also the Designated Institutional Official for the residency programs that we have here at St. David's Health.
So if you were explaining that to an 8-year-old, what would you tell them?
I oversee all of the medical aspects of what happens in our hospital, and I oversee all of the training for the new doctors that we create within the St. David system.
And what do you like most about your job?
I like the opportunity to impact health on a broad spectrum. Seeing patients one-on-one, I can treat 1 or 20 or even 30 patients in a day, but in the role that I serve now, I oversee 1,500 physicians and I can impact healthcare across the entire city of Austin.
And you have a unique background. I think I only have one other top 10 who has a background like yours. So tell us about your background.
I started school at West Point, the United States Military Academy at West Point, and spent 24 years in the Army. So I started my initial training in the Army. I, of course, did a couple other training programs. I have a Master's in Business Association Administration. I should probably do this again. We're recording.
Okay. So tell us about
what things do you want? Oh, what do you want to hear here, though? You want to hear like my whole history, like I'm doing, or what do you?
Yeah, I want to, you know, because I mean it's recording, so we can take what we need, right? So,
okay.
Yeah. So tell us about your unique background.
I started my education at the United States Military Academy at West Point and served 24 years in the military, retiring as a colonel, and served in many roles, both clinical and leadership during that time. I have a Master's in Business Administration from a school in Vermont. I don't remember my own school that I got my MBA from. This is horrible. This is going to be, how about?
And you can use your hands. You can use your hands.
Okay. We'll do it one more time. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. And you don't, I mean, you can just, you know, whatever. Yeah, you just tell us what you want us to know and, you know, share, tell me a little bit about what you did before you got to St. David's.
Okay, I'll do it. I started my education at the United States Military Academy at West Point, where I earned a degree in chemistry and engineering. And then I spent 24 years in the United States Army. During that time, I served in multiple roles, seeing patients both clinically and leading them administratively. I spent some time in the city of Austin overseeing urgent cares for Next Care Urgent Care. So I oversaw 5 urgent cares here in the city and primary care offices as well. During that time, I decided to get a master's in business administration to help understand a little bit more about the business aspects of medical care and how it really impacts care overall. I spent some time getting some other service training degrees. Indeed, I spent some time at Harvard University at their T.H. Chan School of Public Health, where we talked about how healthcare in a city really extends into politics and that caring for people is more than just one-on-one interactions. And so this role really is designed to help use all of those skills to combat illness across a larger platform besides just seeing patients in an office or in the hospital.
I don't know if you want to talk about it, but you also have another role.
Sure, multiple. You want to talk about church or talk about which? Okay, so I also serve as the men's ministry leader at Greater Mount Zion, and I've been in that role for just over 6 years. Before serving in that role, I was the men's ministry leader at Destiny World Outreach Center, which is another church here in Texas. I spent some time at,
Keep your eyes up.
oh, my eyes are, okay. So I also serve as the men's ministry leader for Greater Mount Zion, where I take great pleasure in introducing men to Christ and also serving alongside other Christian men as we serve our community in unique ways. I'll pause. I don't know if that's a good snippet. I don't know. Well, you're going to cut and paste. So you want more? Tell me how you want me to do it. I don't know what you want me to say. I can just keep talking or what?
No, you're good. You're just, yeah, just keep talking. And, you know, like I said, we usually, you know, we get some good stuff. So tell me where you were born and raised.
Okay. I was born in Philadelphia.
You know what? We're going to get you to put your glasses back on because you keep squinting.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries. We want you to be comfortable.
Okay.
Okay. So tell me where you were born and raised.
I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to Marjorie and Calvin Anderson, and grew up there. Went to Abington High School before heading off to undergraduate at West Point, and then came back and went to Thomas Jefferson Medical College in Philadelphia. So my roots are really in Philly.
And your parents, where are your parents from?
My parents are both from the Virgin Islands. My mother was born in Tortola and raised in St. Thomas. And my dad was actually born in Aruba and raised in St. Kitts. So I am the only member of the family born in the United States continental.
And what made you decide to go to seek your education at West Point?
West Point's an interesting story in that I really wanted to play Division I football at a school who had a TV schedule, and West Point had a TV schedule for football, and that was a big determinant in actually going there. But of course, they also had a Tier 1 Alpha education where I could study chemistry at a high level, which is what I thought I wanted to do. When I got there, I enrolled in their life sciences program, and that's when I really realized that medicine was my ultimate calling. So West Point was a real pivotal part of me becoming a doctor and becoming the man I am today.
And tell us, did you share how you got started and why you decided to go into medicine?
So I got started in medicine, like most doctors will say, because I wanted to help people. But the closer I got to medicine, the more I realized that there weren't a lot of people that looked like me helping people in this way. And I had one dramatic experience actually while in medical school that really solidified my energy and driving toward becoming a physician. I bumped into a few young Black boys in Philadelphia when I was on my lunch break during medical school, and I had my white coat on, and I was very proud about having just received a white coat. So I walked by these young men playing, and as I passed them, I heard one of them say, look, there's a Black doctor. And just when I started to feel proud about being a Black doctor, which I wasn't even a doctor at that time, the other one smacked him and said, no, stupid, there aren't any Black doctors. And that really stuck in my heart. I turned around and I talked to those boys for a little bit, and we moved on, but I realized that their comment actually wasn't displaced in that there were so few Black physicians for them to look up to as role models that I had an obligation to finish what I had started and to help other young people, young Black people especially, to become physicians.
That was good. So what advice would you give young people who are starting their careers and possibly have a background similar to yours?
The very first thing I would say to someone who wants to become a physician or wants to follow a role like mine is I would say, you have to believe that it's something that you can do. And I'm here to tell you that it's possible. The fact that I'm here lets you know that it's possible, and you want to make sure that you believe that it's possible when you start. That's critical. The second thing would be to think about the words that come out of your mouth and to make sure that when you're speaking to yourself, whether it be in the mirror or quietly in your quiet times, that you're telling yourself things that affirm the fact that it's possible. Your words have power. They have more power than the words that are coming to you from the outside. But more pragmatically, things that you might do empirically, I would make sure that you take an MCAT preps course. So if you are in undergraduate, you're in college and you're thinking about medical school, I would take an MCAT prep course. The MCAT is very important, and it's really just a test. So learning how to take that test is helpful. The test, like other tests, the SAT, et cetera, is geared towards certain cultures. And so getting in those prep courses helps you to take the test appropriately so that you can channel the knowledge that you have on the inside of you into the test, and it can be demonstrated there. I would recommend highly that anyone who wants to go into medicine volunteer. So find your local hospital and simply show up and ask them how you can help. I started volunteering by pushing wheelchairs. So people who were ready to leave the hospital and needed to just go out the door, I pushed their wheelchair and helped them wait for their rides. And then my next volunteer job was making sandwiches. And then after that, I made relationships with physicians who eventually got me to help volunteer in the ORs, and then eventually just had me clerk and follow them all through my undergraduate time. And so those relationships that I made with those doctors in high school and college turned into letters of recommendation in medical school and even in residency. And so I highly encourage you to volunteer.
Describe what it's like being a Black man and a Black male doctor.
What is it like to be a Black male doctor? That's a challenge. Black male doctors in the United States are something like akin to unicorns in that they're not very common. W.B. Du Bois, I think, described it as a dichotomy, in that you have to walk in two worlds. You have to acclimate to the world that already exists culturally so that you can be successful, learn the things you need to care for patients, and yet you can't forget the world that you came from so that you can be true to who you are, and you can still connect with people who are expecting to know you and understand you when you speak to them. So that dichotomy does not go away. You don't outgrow that. But on the other hand, it's really exciting. You're a trailblazer when you walk in the room, heads turn, because you're uncommon to see. And while there is a lot of pressure for you to be all that people expect you to be, you find that you already are what people expect you to be, and probably more than that. And so it's exciting, and it's quite a privilege. I'm thankful to God that he brought me down this path, and that I can be a part of the healing that we know that God is the one who provides.
I have some questions from Tim Ferriss that I thought were pretty cool. One of them is, what's a purchase of $100 or less that has positively impacted your life over the last 6 months or a recent memory?
Okay. Okay. $100 or less over the last, okay. Or I'm just gonna throw some out. I purchased a notebook to take notes for piano lessons. So I have played the piano for about 30 years, but recently I have gotten connected with a piano instructor to just fine tune my skills and to really revisit that. And so I purchased a book so that I could write down homework, write down notes, write down things that he's taught me. So I think that's important. Impacted my life. Well, I normally spend a little bit more than $100, but I think this will classify for most people. I like to buy flowers for my wife. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars to buy flowers for your wife. You can buy very pretty flowers for $10 or even $15, but I tend to spend triple digits on flowers because I can make her smile from miles away. And making someone who loves you smile from a distance is priceless. So whatever they charge you for the flowers, I think is well worth it. Let's see. I bought workout gloves to keep my hands from being calloused. And so as a physician and as a musician, your hands mean a lot. And so you touch people and people look at your hands, and yet working out and taking care of your body and yourself is important. And so as men, when you work out, sometimes you get calluses or your hands get rough. And so for $9, you can buy some gloves to protect your hands. And so you can work out and take care of your body and still have soft hands to take care of people and take care of the ones that you love.
This is another one that I find has been really interesting finding out. So what is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love?
Unusual habit.
Remembering everything is relative.
Okay. And then like a hobby, would that count, or just habits? Okay.
Anything that, that's a habit, or just something like someone said they were addicted to gummy bears.
Sweet. I don't know. I'll just throw some out. I like to drive. So if whether I'm driving my truck off-road on trails or driving my car on empty roads, I like to drive and listen to music. That's a good time for me to think. And so I like to drive and think. I like to play music when I pray. So if I like to pray, so I don't know, that might be unusual for a number of people. Praying is something that I do all the time, every day, but I like to play music when I pray. There's something about making joyful noises when you express yourself that matter. They may not be songs that anyone would want to hear or listen to or recognize, but I find that I can pray when I'm making music or when my hands are touching the keys. So I like to pray. Unusual habits. I mean, I have a lot of bad habits that I'm fighting. Like I love chocolate chip cookies, and McDonald's makes really good chocolate chip cookies. And don't try to tell me that there's someone that makes better cookies. I've done all these fancy kind of foo-foo cookie makers in Austin. God bless you. You make great pastries. But if you really want a good chocolate chip cookie, get that McDonald's tote. They sell 13 at a time. It's $4. And yes, you will get diabetes, but the cookies are great.
Yeah, I think, let's see, what's another one? Somebody else was, he said he said, you probably won't use this one, but I think he's from Nigeria. He was like, he eats the bones, the chicken bones.
Oh yeah, my parents do that. Don't put that on there, but they do that.
I wouldn't know.
Let's see, unusual habits. I don't know. I probably have something I'm not thinking about that I'm not even tapping
I
into.
should probably ask Kiko.
Yeah, I know, right? She'll probably tell you a bunch.
Okay, so over the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Over the last 5 years, I think that this is not a new habit, but I learn more about this every year, and I hope I get better at it every year. I found that forgiving, whether it's forgiving people, forgiving God, forgiving myself, makes everything that I do in life easier. Whether it's forgiving myself for not being all that someone needs me to be, or not being what I expected myself to be, or forgiving someone for having some quirk or some idiosyncrasy, something that bothers me, or forgiving God for allowing circumstances and situations to occur that I can't understand in my present state, just makes it easier for me to smile during the day and to address things without feeling guilt and shame, or without feeling anger or even bitterness towards people.
If you had a gigantic billboard anywhere in the world and you could get a message out to millions or billions of people, what would that message be?
Well, I can tell you what the message would be. We can think about where all it needs to go. The message would be, all things are possible. And just recognizing that no matter where you are and what things look like, all things are possible. And life has shown me so many times that when something seemed impossible, that it actually was possible, that God is able. So whether that needs to be in the cities, like I grew up in Philadelphia, where young Black boys and girls play on the playground, or maybe in some of the boardrooms where we don't have enough representation and we need things to change, wherever they need to recognize that it's possible that you can integrate a boardroom, that you can go to medical school and become a physician, that you can change the world with your startup, that you can do the thing that God placed in your heart to do.
What, over the last few years, what have you become better at saying no to?
I wish it was a chocolate chip cookies. Let's see. Okay, what have I gotten better at saying no to? I'll see if I can capture this in words. I have gotten better over the last few years at saying no to extra work. Now, you can decide what you feel is work and what you feel is a profession or a calling, and there may be a difference between work and a calling, but sometimes because you can do a thing and you're able to do a thing, people decide to just simply do it. And in doing that, I found that you get stressed, or at least I have gotten stressed or gotten tired, or I'm less fulfilled, or I'm unhappy, or sometimes even borderline depressed because I'm doing so many things because I feel that I should, because I can. And perhaps I don't feel that there's someone else who's quite capable enough or is the right person to do it. But I've gotten much more comfortable in these last few years simply saying no and scheduling time to do nothing, where on my calendar there's nothing happening, and I'm okay with not adding anything to my calendar and just simply being.
What's a worthwhile investment? I'm not sure if I asked you this one. Did I ask you that one already?
No, I don't think so.
That's the most worthwhile investment you've ever made.
Oh, wow. I married the most incredible woman ever. I prayed for a godly wife who would be a compliment to me, and I didn't know what that prayer really meant, and how much the right partner can impact your life. That's just the biggest and best investment that's ever come my way. I don't know if I made that or God sold that into my life and I just received it, but that is certainly the best thing that's happened to me, short of giving my life to Christ.
How has failure or an apparent failure or a challenge set you up for later success?
Easy. I don't believe there's any such thing as failure. There's quitting, but failure is just an opportunity for experience. And so failure gets you on the battlefield, gets you on the court, helps you to see what things look like, what things you have to do. So I think failure is great. Failure means that you tried. It means that you build relationships, that you have new vision. Failure is critical. So I can fail with the best of them. And to anyone out there who's failed something and feels that failing means that you can't do it, please. I mean, failure is a part of doing it. So the fact that you're failing means that you're trying, which means that the opportunity for you to succeed is there. If you weren't trying at all, then there'd be no possibility. So I feel like failure is a prerequisite to success. And I would say this to anybody who said, I've never failed, I question what you call success. You might be limiting yourself and not trying quite hard enough.
What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of. It's a tough one. I think I'm most proud of the things that I've not quit. So the things that I've not given up, and there's a lot of them. And the first things that come to mind are academic things. You see things hanging on the wall. It's not the things on the wall, but what they represent, that they represent perseverance and having not quit, and things that people can never take away from you. People can never take away that I made it through West Point, or that I made it through medical school, that I made it through residency, that I made it through 24 years in the Army and retired, that I made it through 5 combat deployments. No one can take that from you. So I'm proud about not the actual thing that I did, but the spirit of perseverance that it represents. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of having not quit on relationships, not quit on parenting, not quit on being a husband. Those things I'm proud of, that I'm still in it.
What do you think your kids will say about you after you're gone?
I would hope that after I'm gone, my kids would say that I love them. I would hope that my kids would say that I loved life and that I inspired them to do new things. I would hope that my kids would say that I'm not a conformist, so that I don't do things just because that's how people say you do things, because I don't believe that I do. I would hope that my kids would say that I tried my best, that I did my very best.
I'm not sure if I asked this one. How do you give back to the community?
Well, I believe I give back to the community by serving at my church. I think that's a big part of what we do in the community. I also serve on the board at Houston-Tillotson University, and I'm excited about that. This has been my first year serving on that board, and I'm looking forward to many more years of getting connected with kids in their, or children or young adults in their academic journey. I feel like I've done so much school that there must be something I can give back in that regard. And so far I've lent myself to that organization. I'm on the board also for the Austin Black Physician Association, and I feel that I give back by helping that organization fuel young physicians and young medical students on their journey. So those are a few ways that I give back. I believe teaching, preaching, sharing the word. I do that here at the hospital. I do that within my church, and I try to do that within every friend circle that I have. And I believe that sharing the word is perhaps the ultimate way to give back to any community that we all can do. I believe I do those things to give back. And sometimes I feel just being a unicorn, just being a Black male physician and being present and being visible and standing on platforms where I can be seen is giving back. I hope that that might be inspirational to someone who, like those young boys in Philadelphia, who had never seen a doctor before. This might be an opportunity for them to see a Black doctor and know that it's possible.
What do you see as your place or your purpose?
I mean, the first answer that came to mind, while not cliche, it is what I believe. I think we're here to worship. And so everything that I do is an act of worship. Even in failure, it's an act of worship, everything that I'm doing. But I think I'm here to show that there's alternate paths. I mean, my pathway to medical school wasn't exactly the way all people would do it, and I'm happy to talk about that. Or my pathway to becoming a CMO in this hospital is not traditional. And so perhaps just the opportunity to show people that there are other ways besides the conventional ways to do a thing might be part of my purpose.
What life lessons have you learned?
All right, I've learned some life lessons. I have learned that believing a thing is critical to your faith, and that belief is a choice. I used to believe that belief just was, but I've learned that belief is a choice, and you can choose to believe by choosing your environment, by choosing your experiences, by choosing who you listen to, by choosing what things you do. Those things all affect your belief. I've learned that faith is not a feeling, faith is a process, that faith is not just believing, but believing to the point of doing and the actual doing and all things in between. And so I've learned that, that faith does not necessarily need to supersede hope. And so at times when your faith is not present, hope can also be a big part of the beginning of faith. I guess I would say it that way, that hope is on the continuum of faith. I've learned that. I've learned that forgiveness is paramount to everything. I may have mentioned that earlier, but then if you can't forgive, you're not walking this Christian life, and you're probably not doing anything to the fullest of your ability. I've learned that all things are absolutely possible, and you're really only limited by what you can dream and what you can choose. I've learned that, I guess I was going to say, if I find the right way to say this, but I've learned that really if you've found love, you've found all there is to find in this life. I mean, there might be more for you to do or more that you want to experience, but God is love. And if you found love, you found God.
Who's your favorite person?
My favorite person, like like all the time, or just my favorite person that's alive right now? I guess
That's alive right now.
I mean, it's hard for my favorite person not to be my wife. She's so much of what I do every day. I mean, my favorite person is my wife. She's a part of my dreams. She's a part of my profession. She's a part of my recreation. She's a part of my parenting. She's a part of everything. And so she is my favorite person.
What's next for you?
That is a really good question. What is next for me? I have a lot of thoughts about what might be next. I have thoughts about what it might look like to serve in a role like this, but larger. There are roles that oversee multiple hospitals or hospitals in multiple regions, and that might be something that I can do. I've often mused about simply playing jazz piano in Austin and just being that guy that you see on a Sunday night who at the end of his set gives you a little scripture and lets you go home. But I might be a piano player. I'm working on that. That's an option. We had some dreams too. So I thought about what it might look like to work with Kiko in some way. She does law and I do medicine, and it's always separate, but what it might look like if we found ways to interact together, what that might look like, that kind of symbiotic relationship. I like to travel a lot more. I think there's a lot more of the world to see. So I think there's growth in that for me, and maybe even for people I get to meet.
That's kind of the next question. What's the best place you've ever lived?
The best place I've ever lived. I mean, Austin's hard to beat. Austin's been really good. Perhaps the best place that I've lived so far has been Austin, Texas. Austin has been great. Other places have been good for other reasons. I thought the time I spent during my second deployment in Iraq was really great because I spent a year there and we interacted with so many different communities. And we started a church, which was interesting because half the people coming to the church weren't actually soldiers that functioned on the base. I thought that was just a very growth opportunity for me. And they challenged my understanding of faith and the word in ways that I really don't think I've been challenged like that since. That was a great time. I had a great time in Hawaii. So I tell everybody, if you haven't been to Hawaii, go there. I mean, camping out on the North Shore and seeing 9-foot waves by firelight at night. That was amazing. I've had some great vacations in Mexico with Kiko, and there's some beautiful places there. So.
What's your favorite book or book you recommend?
I have a few favorite books. If you have not read a book called Leading Change by John Cotter, you should order it on Amazon today. And he talks about the 8-step change process. And I've read that book 4 or 5 times. And whether you're trying to change things in your household, in your family, in your business, in your organization, in your nonprofit, I mean, it's just 8 steps to leading change in any setting, in any organizational setting, which has been great. I think that's a really good book. Some classics, if you haven't read Good to Great or How the Mighty Fall, they're kind of sequential books. Those are really good books. And there's a Good to Great for social sectors, which kind of talks about what it looks like when you don't have the same financial drivers. Those are really, really good books. There's an old book called the Bible. If you haven't read that, it actually is good if you actually read it, and you'll find that there's things written in there that you didn't expect were in there. And I read a book lately called Negotiations. If you really like to read and think, Negotiations talks about the art of negotiation. It's actually written by a Harvard professor who teaches negotiation at the Kennedy School at Harvard. And so it's really good. He gets really in depth about how we negotiate and how we leverage our ability to negotiate everywhere from the boardroom, big multi-million-dollar deals to negotiating spots for dinner and negotiating with your children. It's really a good book. So I would recommend that as well. It's the sequel to a book called How to Get to Yes. If you've ever heard the book How to Get to Yes, that's written by the same author. This is a sequel to that book called Negotiations.
What do you enjoy doing in your leisure time?
In my leisure time, I like to drive my Jeep Wrangler off-road. So if you like to go off-road and fear for your life, I love to do that. I like to drive anything though. I love to drive cars off-road. I love to play the piano. I love to lift weights and work out. I like to travel. I don't mind a good game of chess now and then. I like to look at art. I like to people watch. So that's something I like to do too. So just go places and watch people and watch how they interact.
What does it mean to be chosen as one of our top 10 doctors for 2021?
This is really a distinguished honor for me to be chosen as one of the top doctors for 2021. One, I feel like it's just another testament from God, another example that God is saying all things are possible and that he can make anything possible, because surely I'm far from worthy. But also I feel like it's another opportunity for me to create a platform, or for a platform to have been offered to me to stand on, where other people who are thinking about walking in a path similar to mine can see that it's possible and can hold on to that. And if they even only see one picture of a Black doctor who's done something unconventional with a medical degree, who's leading in a business setting or who's leading a hospital, that they might do it, that maybe 4 or 5 might do it. So I feel like it's a way to touch the future.
Well, that was my last question. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
I'm just thankful for this opportunity, and I hope that I do it justice. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I just want to congratulate all the other winners. There's some amazing people that I'm listed with, and I'm honored to be in their company.